No problem. Senator Young, good evening.
Good evening.
Good
Good
evening.
evening,
Welcome.
Assemblyman Farrell. Good evening, members of the committee, senators, members of the Assembly. My name is Stephen Aquario, and I'm the Executive Director of the New York Association of Counties. The association has been in existence for nearly 100 years, serving and representing county interests in the state of New York. It is my pleasure to be with you here this evening to offer some county perspective on a state budget proposed by our Chief Executive, which is presently before you. I will condense my testimony in the interest of time, and in the testimony that's before you, there's a section that refers to it where it's comments on the pending 17-18 state budget. I'll start by presenting to you some net positive actions for county government submitted by our Governor, Andrew Cuomo. First area of positive policy from our perspective is the option to use design-build. NYSAC supports the Governor's proposal for granting counties the ability to use design-build contracts. This proposal, in our opinion, makes common sense and can lead to enhanced procurement, savings, but more importantly, efficiencies. To maximize this benefit of this proposal, we strongly encourage you to extend this authority to the City of New York. The second benefit I'd like to present to you is to update the state's internet sales tax collection. Some economists are estimating that e-commerce will reach nearly 10% of all retail sales nationwide by the end of 2017. The state desperately needs to update its sales tax collection system to keep up with the changes in the retail marketplace. Counties in New York support the Governor's proposal to improve the sales tax collection system. The budget proposal will help streamline sales tax collection practices, reduce the burdens on small vendors, and improve compliance. These taxes are already owed under state law, and sales tax is the #1 source of revenue for nearly half of New York's county governments, with more than 1/4 of all local sales tax being shared with other municipalities in the county. These improvements recognize the changing retail marketplace and will provide more stability in sales tax collections for the state and its local governments while enhancing fairness in the overall retail market that supports locally owned and operated New York businesses. The third provision of net positive benefit to New York's counties is under the 911 communications section. The executive budget proposal includes legislation to extend the 911 public safety surcharge from contracted, which are postpaid cell phone devices, to prepaid devices. Often when you walk into a retail store today, you can no longer get a contract cell phone. It is largely prepaid cell phone contracts. Our system simply hasn't kept up. Our laws haven't kept up with the changes in technology. This is absolutely essential to ensure all those who benefit from the E911 system contribute its appropriate share. The legislation would require sellers to collect a surcharge on the sale of each prepaid wireless communication service or device sold within the state. The market shift from contract plans to prepaid wireless, which is currently not subject to the surcharge, is leading to a steady decline of revenues. The surcharge currently imposed on postpaid wireless communication service is $1.20 on each device per month. Under Governor Andrew Cuomo's proposal, the surcharge would be extended to the sale of each prepaid service or device at the rate of 60 cents per retail sale, that is $30 or less, and $1.20 per retail sale over $30. I'd like to thank Assemblyman John McDonald for spearheading this issue in the New York State Assembly during the 2016 legislative session, and we are grateful for the Governor to include this proposal in this year's budget. Next benefit I'd like to express our support is reforms to early intervention. Counties strongly support needed reforms to the early intervention program. Counties support reforms requiring insurers to pay for benefits covered by the Child Health Insurance Policy. abide by existing prompt pay requirements, and to increase reimbursement from third-party insurers. These issues have been ongoing for years, and the states, counties, and their taxpayers will benefit from these reforms. Counties greatly support the additional $30 million in funding to address the heroin and opioid abuse crisis that plagues our state. I'd like to now turn your attention to cost shifts in the state budget. The governor's proposed budget calls for a reduction of $21.8 million, or 4.6% reduction in community college base aid from the state. With the enrollment growth of the recession and the enrollment decline post-recession, community colleges have basically returned to 2008 enrollment, and state aid levels are forcing us to operate as though we are still in 2008. With respect to free college tuition, we are expressing a concern with the proposal that mainly applies or focuses on state 4-year free college tuition and the impact to counties in community college as a consequence of this action could penalize the states, counties, and the community college system. With respect to indigent defense, I'd like to commend this state legislature for taking the bold action in a bipartisan, unanimous vote during the 2016 legislative session to begin a multi-year phase-out of the county contribution in funding and administering indigent defense in the state of New York. This is the state's constitutional responsibility. You stood up for the people of this state. That legislation was vetoed, and the legislation that's before you is simply inadequate. The governor's proposed budget provides no new funding for the 52 counties not subject to the Herring settlement. Instead, the budget requires the Office of Indigent Legal Services to submit a plan by the end of 2017 that lays out a strategy for expanding the terms of the state settlement for the rest of the counties across the state. Under this proposal, the counties, not the state, must upfront any expansion costs, and the state may reimburse these costs they deem necessary to extend these reforms. It is important to note that this proposed reimbursement model is only applicable to expanded services, and nothing is allocated for the current base cost counties are funding on this program, $380 million annually. We can and should do better. Finally, the governor's budget does not address the recently enacted state-issued eligibility standard guidelines, which commence on April 1st, 2017. Even if we did nothing this session with reforming indigent defense, the expanded guidelines will blow up our programs all across this state. The costs necessary to fund these expanded guidelines, which now will cover families below 250% of the federal income level for poverty. Some counties have reported that almost every resident in their county will become eligible once this standard is effective. Because of these shortcomings, counties do not support the governor's indigent defense proposal. We strongly encourage the legislature to revisit their unanimously passed indigent defense legislation from last year. And if the governor's proposed expansions stay in the budget, we ask that at the very least you pre-fund the county cost of any new expansion in services. With respect to human services cost shifts, under the foster care block grant, the pending budget before you includes some significant cost shifts, which we have not seen from this state legislature or this governor in years. The governor is proposing cost shifts from the state to the counties under the foster care block grant. The state is proposing to lower its current funding percentage from the 54% presently to 50%. When asked why the change, the answer was simply, we think it should be equal 50-50. We are opposed to these cost shifts. Under Title 20 allocation, the state budget proposes a shift in how counties can use Title 20 funding by mandating that $23 million must be used for child care services. NYSAC also opposes this proposal. with respect to raising the age of criminal responsibility. Counties have supported the public policy goals of raising the age of criminal responsibility from 16 to 18 for nonviolent offenses, but we have also consistently raised concerns about the cost of these actions, and the county district attorneys have also raised concerns about their responsibility with this policy change as well. The governor's proposed budget, again, calls for the raise the age, but it has been modified from prior years. The governor's latest proposal no longer provides 100% state reimbursement of all new costs incurred by the counties to implement this proposal. Therefore, NYSAC cannot support this proposal with the removal of this 100% reimbursement guarantee in earlier versions. Two other items of concern. Under public health, counties oppose the executive's recommendation to consolidate 39 public health appropriations into 4 pools and to reduce the funding for each pool by 20%. These are the Article 6 public health streams that counties use on behalf of the state. Other items of concern are also contained in the state's budget testimony that you have before you, but I would like to conclude by discussing the shared services referendum proposal. Counties have implemented shared services and governmental efficiency programs for decades, and we will continue to do so. As we highlighted earlier, counties have constrained spending significantly to ensure taxpayers receive effective and efficient service delivery. Governor Cuomo has long crusaded to promote greater intergovernmental partnerships between and amongst the local governments. We support this crusade. In fact, counties submitted $882 million in shared services and government efficiencies plans under the legislation championed by this governor and approved by this legislature just a couple of years ago. These initiatives are currently being implemented for county budget years 2017, 2018, and 2019. While we continue to aggressively pursue shared services and improved government operations, we do believe that more can always be done, and we should never settle for the status quo. To this end, we look forward to working with Governor Cuomo and the state legislature to identify the appropriate mechanism to foster greater cooperation amongst the local governmental jurisdictions, and our school districts. So with that said, I'll stop the prepared testimony. Thank you very much for this opportunity as well.
Thank you. Questions? Oh, Mr. McDonald.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and Steve, it's good to see you once again.
Thank you.
I have various questions, so just hang on to the wheel here. I think last year there was, at least from some of the county executives I work with, concerns about change that we had made in the legislature about the salary of district attorneys, that we increased it and there was no funding to follow. And I think we've had a pretty good track record the last several years of trying not to increase unfunded mandates. Is that still a concern? I know you have hundreds and hundreds of concerns, but is that still a concern in your membership? And what's the value of that?
There are many concerns from the county's perspective, but to answer your direct question, it's about $1 million, just slightly over, $1.6 million. It's not even a rounding error, as been thrown around recently in this town, but it's $1 million. It's a matter of principle. Look, for the past 50 years, the state of New York, when it has adjusted the salary, which is enforcing the state's penal law on behalf of the people of the state of New York, that's the charge of the district attorney. There's no greater case for when the state mandates a local government salary to go up, that it paid for it. And for the past 50 years, you have done that. We don't understand why you have not done that. But another increase is coming in 2018 as well for the same district attorney's salary. So we do ask that the state act now. The Senate has passed this legislation in the past. We hope that the Assembly will follow suit, incorporate it into the terms of the state budget. While it is nominal in cost, its importance is great.
Let's jump into the 911 funding. You talked about the move towards the prepaid cards, which obviously we all agree with. And obviously there's a reasonableness to what the governor's proposed in regards to the value of the card and therefore the tax. In regards to the actual revenue that's raised, there's been a lot of discussion in the past about what percentage actually flips over, for lack of a better term, to the counties, particularly for next-gen 911. What is the position of the county on that?
Well,
Counties,
I'd like to call on David Lucas in a minute to help me with some of the numbers, but presently I believe the counties are receiving about $75 million, and plus $10 million for the public safety answering points consolidation, but I think that phases out, and we're really looking at a $75 million pot presently under the current collection of the $1.20 by the state. Most of that fund should be coming back to us. I don't know how much is collected in total.
Close to 180 million is collected statewide, and we end up with about 85 million of it.
Presently.
185 million is collected, 85 million goes back to the counties.
And we do support the governor's current proposal to extend this to prepaid because just as in the sales tax internet process, we're losing because the marketplace has shifted and our tax price doesn't keep up. As we read the proposal, we're double checking. It appears that the state's keeping all of the money from the shift to prepaid. They do allow us at the local level to extend our surcharge to the prepaid, but it appears that they're not raising the grant levels that are coming back for 911 services, so the state will ultimately keep even more money than they are currently today. So we're trying to get clarification from the executive on that.
I will just make a comment in regards to the college tuition, particularly community colleges. I think everyone likes the concept of free college, although there's a lot of wrinkles that go along with that. But I do philosophically have an issue with the fact that the state hasn't maintained its commitment for a long period of time. We proposed a cut here on the FTE credit, or FTE aid, and still we're talking about moving off on a different venture. One would argue that if we actually kept up our commitment, maybe we wouldn't be having to have this discussion about free college, and our students wouldn't be seeing such exorbitant tuition. And the other thing I want to mention on the shared services initiative, I don't know if I really understood your position. I mean, I understand a position that, hey, we've been doing this, we've been doing shared services for a period of time, we continue to work with our municipal partners, but I guess the way I see this as being set up is that the chief administrative officer of the county is basically Oz and is in charge. And I don't know if I agree with that philosophy. Do your county executives really relish this opportunity to be kind of leading this charge on what could be a little bit of a fractionalized process?
Well, we welcome the opportunity to work with our local governments. We are totally supportive of enhanced shared services. We completely support government efficiencies. The plan that's presently before you is technically flawed and should be rejected. Do county officials see themselves as a convener of this process? They are open to doing that in partnership with their local governments, in cooperation with their local governments. The need for a referendum of this magnitude, in our estimation, in some instances, is a ministerial action. That's an MOU executed between two local government chief elected officials. That's why they're elected. So whether or not there's a need for a referendum to disturb the people with their precious time, I don't know if that's the case yet.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Further questions?
Thank you very much. Senator Marchione would like to ask some questions.
Thank you. And first of all, I'd like to say thank you for your concise testimony. To have it broken down the way you did made it very understandable where the counties stand, although the county executives have never been shy in telling us how much of their budget is because of the mandates that we at this level have sent down to them. I know, and you didn't discuss it today, but I know you've asked for a state 911 board. What do you envision the mission of that board to be?
I'm very glad that you raised that question. We have discussed this with Assemblyman McDonald in the past about the need when we were discussing the surcharge, and we believe that the present mechanism that the state distributes the cellular surcharge is contrary to federal intention. Therefore, we believe that there's a better way to distribute the funds from the state that are collected on cellular devices, and a way to do that would be to create a state E911 board, which would be a better mechanism to distribute it to the counties to retain some for the state operations if they need it for public safety purposes. But the cellular surcharge by federal law is supposed to go for E911 services, and it has not been the case. So we do think a board would help in the distribution of the funding.
Thank you. That's all I
Thank you.
have.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
We've been joined by Senator John Brooks.
Hi, I just want to ask a question on the shared services agreement. You've been doing that for an extended period of time, and that's anticipated in the 17 and 18 budgets going forward.
Yes.
Can you think of any huge area that's been overlooked in that process, or something that the state should help and assist in a consolidation effort?
I think the ability for the local governments to come together in retiree health insurance, is, we are precluded from doing so under Article 47 of the insurance law. The amount of capitalization that is required, this statute was put in place 30 years ago. And during its tenure of existence, one county and its municipalities came together a few years ago in Tompkins County. The present statute is outdated, antiquated, with the new health insurance options that are available. Local governments in Western New York, local governments in the Capital District, right here in Schenectady, are interested in working together with its county in health insurance. And the other area is in workers' compensation and the ability to have deductible plans provided so we can have a public-private partnership with workers' comp carriers and taxpayers to help fund the workers' compensation liability. So workers' compensation and health insurance would be two areas where I think we could use help.
Thank you.
Thank you again.